Whether you're newer to jiu-jitsu or you've been doing this for a while, I'm gonna cover 3 easy but very mean submissions that won't be affected by your partner's frames. Frames get in the way all the time, especially for newbies. These submissions inherently work around your opponent's frames and will leave a lasting impression. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you're in the right place. We're gonna get mean today. Let's dive in. All 3 of these submissions have 2 things in common. 1, we hit them from side control. 2, your opponent uses their frames to keep you away, and it doesn't matter because these submissions work around and through your opponent's frames. It's pretty cool. So the first one we're gonna cover is the 3-finger choke. Now, before we can learn the choke itself, you have to learn the grip. Now, we're using a 3-finger grip as I'm showing here in the example, mainly because this is going to give you more range of motion. The thumb of your top hand will slide in between the index finger and the middle finger of your bottom hand. Now, once you obtain this, you're going to have greater mobility with getting your elbows closer together. If you're familiar with a no-gi baseball bat choke, it's semi-similar to that. Now, let's get into how we make this happen. As you can see here, I'm in side control. Now, my north side hand, the one that's closest to his head, will go underneath his neck. Now my south side hand is going to slide up the center of his chest, in between his frames. Now my hand travels up his chest, and the key or the thumb of my top hand will find the lock, the space between my middle finger and my index finger of my bottom hand. Now, from here, I'm going to step wide with my north side leg. Now, once my leg is set, I can slide the blade of my top forearm, which would be your ulna bone, into his neck. From here, essentially all I'm doing is applying upward and forward pressure with my arm that's under his head so that I'm rocking his head forward. And then from there, I can just push that forearm deeper into his neck while I push off my foot. Now, again, keep in mind, guys, you know I like to preach this with your training partners. We're nice and careful, okay? You don't need to full send this. If you're in a self-defense scenario or you're in a tournament and you're able to do this in a tournament, full send. Now, I will say, some of you guys out there aren't going to be able to do what's called neck cranks. If you don't do this move correctly, it's going to look like a neck crank to the referee. So be careful with that. Okay. It's really more about pushing your forearm into their neck than cranking their head forward like a can opener. It's mean, it's effective, it's easy to do, and your opponent's frames will not stop it from happening. So if you haven't tried it yet, be good to each other and have fun with it. Most people don't realize this, but your gear can either help you or hold you back. Now, I've been training in jiu-jitsu gear for a long time, and most of it looks good online, but falls apart when it actually matters. That's exactly why I wear X Martial. This isn't just clean designs, it's performance-built gear. You get a compression fit that actually moves with you, durability that holds up during the hardest of rounds, and designs that don't look like every other basic rash guard on the mat. Whether you're drilling, competing, or going to war with one of your favorite training partners, X Martial is built for it. It's lightweight, it's breathable, and it's made for people who actually train. If you're serious about your jiu-jitsu, your attire should match that. So go check out X Martial, grab yourself a set or 2 or 3, and if you're smart, you use my code IRONWILL to save yourself some money. Train harder, roll longer, and look sharp doing it. Let's get back to the video. This next one is one of my personal favorites, the Soul Crusher. Now, I have covered this in the past, but we're gonna put a nice new twist on it. The setup on this is so crucial and yet so slick at the same time. So what I'm gonna do is transition to a variation of Kesekatami where I sit to my butt and I get an underhook on his top shoulder. Now from here, with my unoccupied hand, I'm gonna grab the wrist of his near arm and pick that up as I transition back into side control, trapping his arm in between his chest and my torso. Now this is great because I can lean all my weight through my chest on his arm and he's not gonna be able to get that back. The nice thing about this is it doesn't cost me any energy to secure that arm, while he will probably be expending energy to get that arm back, and it'll be useless. Now from here, I let go of that underhook I had on his shoulder and I use that hand to feed his wrist to my north side arm that's waiting for his wrist underneath his neck. This is called twisting arm control. What I'm looking for next is the gift wrap. So what I do is I take my unoccupied hand, I slide that up his chest, and I grab onto my other wrist. This is as secure as it can get. He can try to roll away, he's not going anywhere. He can try to roll into me, he's not going anywhere. And guess what? His floating ribs are exposed. Next, I take my south side knee, the one that's closest to his feet, and I place that just under where I know his rib cage is. This will be the floating ribs. Now, you don't want to place your knee on the hip girdle because there will be no submission there. There's no pain, there's no pressure on the diaphragm, there's none of that. You need to be right on the floating ribs. Sometimes you can get this if you hit the rib cage low enough, but you really want to be middle of the torso, usually right below where you think the rib cage ends. Now, once my knee is set, I'm gonna step wide with my north side leg, just like we did in the last one. And what I'm gonna do is two things at once. Not only am I picking up his body with the gift wrap, so I'm trying to fold his head towards his hip, but I'm also pressing my weight through my knee into his floating ribs. It's gonna compress his diaphragm in, pushing a lot of the air out of his lungs, and it's also going to hurt. Again, you can pressure cook your opponents here. Even if you aren't getting an immediate tap, you can hold this and it's gonna zap their gas tank. People will fight like crazy to get out of this and they're gonna burn their energy. And even if they don't fight, it's really hard to breathe and it's gonna burn their energy. So you got the tap or you've got insurance, because even if you can't tap them, you can gas them out. Again, remember, these are all mean submissions. So take care of each other, but have fun with it. If you haven't tried this one yet, give it a go. Last but not least, the dump choke. Now, this was one of the first submissions that was hit on me when I came in as a white belt, and it was one of the first times I felt like, what was that? I couldn't get out of it. It hurt. I couldn't breathe. All I could do was tap as fast as I possibly could. And although this submission is mean, it's effective, it's easy to do, and your opponent's frames will not stop you in any way. Now, as we check the example, I'm in side control again. I'm going to take my north side forearm and I'm gonna slide that across his neck in a way that I'm turning his face away from me. If I don't turn his face away, this dump choke is gonna be crunching in on his trachea, and I'm not trying to cause any kind of damage to that. If you turn their face away, you put a little more muscle tissue in the way, you're gonna get some more carotid in the way, right? Some of these things that are gonna help you get the tap without actually injuring your opponent or your training partner. Now, what I do next is I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure in my forearm to his neck. And this is a distraction, okay? It puts all of his attention on what's happening to his neck. While that's happening, I'm going to take my south side arm and I'm gonna reach in between his legs and grab onto his hip girdle, essentially encasing his leg and his glutes and his hips all in my grip. If he's wearing a gi, I can reach underneath and grab his belt line. If he's not wearing a gi, I can just underhook his upper thigh as deep as possible. Now from here, you're gonna see I switch my hips. That puts my feet in a great position to drive his body up. So as I begin to pick his body up, I also scoot my legs underneath his torso so that his body can't drop down and I lose progress. I then use my legs and my upper body to tilt his body up in the air. All at the same time, I'm driving my weight through that forearm into his neck. Now, if you've never done this, you can probably tell that it looks mean. If you've had this happen to you, drop in the comments how it felt, because only people who've had this happen to them know how brutal it is. Self-defense, tournaments, full send. But in your training room, be good to each other. Know that this one is mean and that you don't need to full send it to get a tap. Now, unlike the last two where you can kind of cook your opponents, this one isn't one where I would cook my opponent. If they're not tapping after 5 seconds, I'm probably just gonna set this down and move to something else. I saved this one for last for a reason, okay? It's mean. So be good to each other, give it a shot. It's truly one of my favorites, but you just gotta be careful with it. Now, if you guys have other submissions that you would consider to be mean, easy to do, let me know what you're using. And I always appreciate the feedback because we are building this community together. So with that, you guys know how I like to end them, sometimes backwards, always forwards. I'll see you in the next one.